Hey, everybody. Welcome back to the PowderKeg Podcast, part of StormCloud.blog. My name's Kyle, joined as always by Ryan. Ryan, how are you doing today, man?
I'm good. The season we're on the doorstep of the season. You can't help but be excited. It's a fantastic time of year. Right now, everyone's Super Bowl champs because everyone's 0-0. So might be downhill from here, it might be uphill. But either way, I'm super excited for it. What about yourself, bro?
I'm fired up as well, man. I mean, I remember my longest running joke. I think I've probably made it on this podcast a couple times is, my season hopes always last until about, week one. And and then it seems like every year often something comes crashing down on me and all of a sudden realism hits. But I don't feel that way under the Harbaugh era, so I'm really fired up about this season. It's exciting. I know we're going to go back and forth today on overall how we felt about the offseason, but yeah, let's have some fun. So today, Ryan, we're going to have a fantasy draft because fantasy football season is here. You told me off camera you've got three fantasy football drafts coming up this weekend. I do too. It's going to be chaotic. So we're doing it. But instead of drafting players, you and I are going to draft some takes, my man. We're going to go through some Chargers roster moves. We're going to give our takes on the preseason and the offseason. And we're going to wrap it up with a little draft between you and I. We're going to pick our favorite takes, put them against each other, and we'll let the audience decide which set of takes is the more accurate, better set. What do you think, man?
I love the sound of that, and maybe we can have a little friendly wager. Seeing as we're both betting men.
I like it. I like it.
Yeah, I think that could be add a little spice. Let's just say it that way.
We could do like a hat or something like that as long as I don't have to pay for shipping if you win.
I have to pay for shipping for everything in the for the US, man. Brexit killed me. It killed
Brutal.
my finances. Yeah, so
Brutal, brutal, man.
we're putting our names and reputations on the line here. So yeah, let's be strong with it.
You got it, brother. You got it. So we're going to have two segments. We're going to start with dueling salesmen. So you and I are going to take a take. We're going to sell it to the other person, and the other person will tell us if they're going to buy, sell, or just hold on it if they don't think it's the right time to make a decision on that one yet. And then they're going to fling back a counter take, and we're just going to go back and forth trying to sell each other. Now, part of the game too, Ryan, if you want, you can sandbag me. You could take one of these takes, you can make it sound a little softer than it is, and try to keep it as your sleeper for later in the fantasy draft. I don't know if you and I, either one of us, are sophisticated enough to pull that off, but options out there.
I am not a good liar. I'm definitely not a good enough poker player to do that. I'm good with the cards and the numbers, not with my face. My face tells all. So you'll be able to read it if I'm bluffing, but maybe that'll be my double bluff.
Right. There you go. There you go. It's already starting. All right. So I'll lead the way. I got one take right now that I'm going to try to sell you, Ryan. This should be an easy one, but I still believe offensive line depth is the number one concern on this team. They did pick up a tackle that I'm sure you're going to tell us about. Yeah, I believe it was yesterday. They traded for a tackle. And I really like the write up you had on stormcloud.blog about him. I am still concerned about what happens if a guard gets injured or if we do lose somebody for a considerable amount of time. Sawyer still seems like one of our better options at swing tackle. But there were so many guys that have been available that could have lifted the floor of that room. It's concerned me that we've sat on our hands and not gone after any of them. So what do you think about that take, Ryan? Would you buy, sell, or hold that one?
So the fact that it's the number one in need on the team, that I don't think there's a Chargers fan alive that wouldn't buy that take, because at the end of the day, even if you look at our eight or nine, or if you go down into the practice squad, the bottom of that is terrible. Just before we went live, Foster Sarrell got swapped out for David Sharp, which is like a 0.05% upgrade on David Sharp might be like the worst off season player I've ever seen. Like so, but the reality is that you seven. is kind of where you look at it, 7 deep throughout a whole season. And I am actually okay with our 7 deep, maybe even down to our 8. But then the peak of it is not good enough. It's going back with 2 out of the 3 same interior of alignment that got absolutely blasted against Texans. It's just not good enough as a off-season evaluation. As we sit here now, we can safely say we all have legitimate concerns. So yeah, I'm absolutely buying. All right. I've got one for you now. I wasn't as high on this guy coming out in the draft, but he has absolutely blown me away in the preseason. That's RJ Mickens. So I think Mickens has earned his spot outright. He hasn't had to rely on, people fading here or there. There was genuine competition at safety. And because of that, they can't wait to roll him in next season. Jesse Minter and the DB coaching staff will need to get him 200 snaps or more this season because he's deserved it. How do you feel about that one?
I would absolutely buy on that take. Mickens was looking like he had veteran savvy knowledge and how he was defending the run at times. He showed the right reads and patience and ability to just contain. He didn't try to over pursue. He impressed the hell out of me, Ryan. I really want to see him on the roster consistently. I hope he's not one of those guys that they're just hanging on to now to try to get him through waivers. I love Tony Jefferson, and I was very convinced that they would need Tony as that 4th safety, and Mickens flipped that on its head for me. Now I want to see Mickens get more opportunity, and Tony's there if we have an injury, and that's great depth. That's probably one of the best positions of depth we have, but Mickens definitely needs to get those snaps. I completely agree. So that's another buy. One I'm going to send your way is Jamari Caldwell, man. I know you were hitting me up on Facebook Messenger every game. This guy is a beast. And I don't know about you, dude, but when I see him on camera during the games, there's this aura around him when he's standing. He already has it. He glows. He physically glows on the screen. And I see him in highlights when they're playing his Canton tape, when he's about to give his speech. I fully believe he's going to be the best defensive tackle we've seen since Jamal Williams. And I don't want to put a cap on what that ceiling is because he just seems to have that element. He might be the best I've seen in my lifetime. I don't know. What do you think? How do you feel about Jamari Caldwell at least being the best defensive tackle we've had since Williams?
Oh, I absolutely love his tape. I was telling everyone in the draft cycle that go watch his Senior Bowl tape. If you don't think he can rush a passer, go watch his Senior Bowl tape. He was one of the quickest guys on the field. He was 340 pounds. You can see him on this Oregon tape keeping up with Jordan Birch, who's a bendy 250-pound edge rusher. But I'm gonna hold on this take. I have become one of these analysts that becomes a bit too excited when people peak early in terms of people you said would peak early. I get caught up in it, and I'm trying to hold myself in check because, for example, look at Tremont Morris-Brash, look at Caleb Murphy. They flashed in preseasons before. Like people may not know, but Caleb Murphy had 7 sacks in his first preseason in 2023 with the Titans. So, but then he just did nothing. Like he was cut by a month later. So people can peak early and then not even like let it go down, but level off a plateau. And I'm gonna hold until I see him do it against starting NFL offensive linemen. So he's
sandbagging, folks. He's sandbagging.
It's a little cold, I know. All right, my turn. My next one. Do I do this one or the other one? I'm going to do this one. Becton over Pipkins is a better upgrade than Slater to Pipkins as a downgraded tackle. Does that make sense? Like the distance up is bigger than the distance down.
Yeah. So what you're saying is you think that the floor of the offensive line might actually be higher this year than last year because Becton is a bigger upgrade than Pipkins is a downgrade from Slater.
Yeah, that's essentially it. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I would actually buy that take.
Ooh,
I think
I thought you had pause.
I would buy that. Slater is, an amazing tackle. You don't want to throw around generational, especially when we have somebody that actually is prototypically a generational tackle playing on the same team. It feels like we're just throwing that word around. But I will say Trey Pipkins at guard was like the antithesis of what we were trying to be as a team, the smash mouth team that could run the ball down your throat. And his one attribute that was kind of his saving grace translates to tackle, his pass blocking, but it did not translate at guard. He could not pick up stunts. He was not effectively defending or blocking for the pass in the interior. And I do believe he'll be able to do that again this year. So at tackle, he'll force edges to, try to bend the edge, get around him. Hopefully he doesn't let them take inside. His footwork will help him there, but he was a complete liability, in my opinion, in all aspects of the game last year. And I do think Becton's going to bring that punch. It is very hard for us because we thought we were going to have an elite side of the offensive line to run the ball to with Alt and Becton next to each other, just bulldozing people, two just giants. But we don't have that. But I don't think it's the end of the world. I think we're just going to be passing a little bit more than we may have originally intended because that's what Pipkins does best.
Yeah, that makes complete sense to me.
Keeping it on offensive line, let's bounce it back to you. This is one that I would buy as well. The Chargers don't have an offensive line personnel problem. They have a coaching problem. They need to find their true offensive line coach. And the problems we have carried over season after season. Failure to pick up stunts, really struggling in true pass sets at times on the line and letting that interior pressure in. So I would say it's more of a coaching problem at this point. And if they're going to take the next step forward, it's going to need to be with a new offensive line coach.
Yeah, I'm 100% buying this. Like, it's not even a question to me. I actually slipped in at the very end of my article after the Rams game, is that every other position on both sides of the ball has improved at least one player, with some position groups like, defensive line with Mike Elston improving all of his players. Mike Devlin has not done it with one. Joel does not count. He was a godlike talent at Notre Dame. He's still the same player. He doesn't. You don't get to hang your hat like when what's his name was saying that. Oh yeah, I improved Justin Herbert. It's like, no, you didn't. He was awesome. So yeah, when Mike Devlin is the only one that hasn't, and for me that is indicative of a problem. You have talent on that line. Bradley Bozeman has played at a high level, whether people want to believe it or not. Go back and watch some of his old tape for the Ravens. He has a good tape of guard. He had some good tape of center. The fact that you don't forget how to be a good player, you reach your physical limitations, but he seems to not have it mentally. That for me is a coaching application problem. That is getting on the practice field, being able to communicate the scheme and what Greg Roman is trying to do conceptually down to your players. And right now, I don't think Mike Devlin is doing that, and he should absolutely be on the hot seat for that. So, we have a good assistant O-line coach, a very good player in Hardwick, in the wings. Could we see a switch later in the season? That's probably a take to revisit a bit later. Right, last one. Last one's back to me, yeah? So, staying on offense, but going out to smaller guys. Trey Harris will out-snap Lambert Smith, but Dre will outproduce Trey in yards.
Ooh,
How'd you feel
that's
about
a spicy one.
Yeah.
Are you buying that off the bat or are you selling it?
That's for me to know and you to find out.
All right. I would say, I'm obviously going to buy that Trey Harris is going to outsnap Lambert Smith. He's the only X on the team right now. And Lambert Smith is kind of in this crunch behind Ladd and Keenan trying to find ways to get them both on the field at the same time. And Lambert Smith kind of becomes the odd man out. But he showed such a dynamic ability in preseason to locate and bring in those deep balls. He's got the speed. He showed a lot of route running prowess. And as you pointed out during the games, he seemed to have been favored a little bit over Trey at times. Trey was running with the 2s and 3s. Lambert was out there with the starters. So, one thing's for sure, when next season rolls around, if Keenan Allen isn't retained, if he decides to retire or whatnot, it looks like we have a really good core of 3 receivers to build around, which is great. But I think Lambert Smith is probably the second most talented out of that young trio. I think the opportunity is just going to be there because of Trey Harris's unique build, skill set, him being the X. Lambert Smith might get the deep ball opportunities. So I'm not ready to sell it. Because of his talent level, I'm not ready to buy it. I'm going to have to hold and see how Greg Roman decides to rotate those guys in, and how much snap share Keenan Allen's going to eat into all of that, because they might just try to make him a rotational guy on 3rd down, and maybe Lambert gets a couple extra looks in the early downs. Who knows? But I got to hold on that one for now.
Yeah. Okay. Hold makes a lot of sense based off of your thinking there. All right. I think we're on to the next segment. Is that right? Yeah.
That's right. Let's do it. So we're going to kind of do something. It's going to be very similar as our buy, sell, or hold, but the takes are just a little bit more extreme. So we're going to, again, Ryan and I will go through and explain a take, and then the other one will say whether they're going to punt or pass on that take. So kind of similar, but it's kind of more like a 4th down vibe. Are we going to drop back and fling it, or are we just going to sail this thing because we do not like where we're sitting right now and we need to play for field position? So let's go ahead and dive into the first one. Exactly. So this one I have, Ryan, I'm pretty passionate about. The more I look at how everything played out this offseason, I think the Chargers cap space, their abundance of it at the moment, isn't a strategy. This wasn't Hortiz trying to be frugal, not really wanting to bring in too many big names. I think it was pure failed execution. I think Hortiz missed the market. He tried to be in on multiple big name guys that were going to cost a bit, like DK Metcalf, Devontae Adams. I think we were rumored to be in for some defensive tackles, but none of them got signed. In fact, the only one that did was, big name we had was Becton, who, when you look at what he's actually getting paid, given where the guard market was at, we're getting Becton at a pretty steep discount. It's not a big vote of confidence to give a guard 2 years, $20 million, just $10 million a year. So I think Hortiz missed the market and had a sophomore slump of an off season. And if you were to ask him and feed him some truth serum, I think he would tell you that he's disappointed in how it played out. What do you think? Would you pass or punt on that take?
Oof, there's a lot baked in there. I'm gonna pass. I'm gonna drop back and I'm gonna bullet one straight into that take, because I said at the time there is no competitive advantage to not spending your cap, especially if you are in a team that is projected to win 9 or 10 games. You can hold back on that and think, oh, the trade deadline, maybe. Every time a trade rumor pops up, it must be because that's why we saved our money. It makes so much sense now, but it's just not how Hortiz operates. So even if he has that money in his pocket, he's not going to go and spend it. It's not the way he was brought up in the Ravens system under DaCosta. And I failed to see what the plan was for that allocation of money. You talked about some others. We talked about Evan Engram as well. We apparently offered the same contract the Broncos did. Yeah, that is a significant. That was $16 million per APY. That is a lot compared to the rest of the class. So it makes it seem like we had a ceiling for all the contract costs, and they were not willing to negotiate over that ceiling, which says they have a lot of faith within their model. their financial model that they go, this is how much a player's worth. We're not going to panic. And I've said this elsewhere as well, that I think 2025 is not the plan. I think 2026 is the plan. And this sort of builds into that they shot for things, but they weren't going to overcommit themselves. That is strategy to an extent, but I also feel like I do agree that it is a failure of execution more so than it is a definitive strategy. Okay, so my turn then. Oof. This is a spicy one. Harbaugh's Michigan favoritism is a weak link in scouting, and it's hurt the draft stock.
I can hear you hurting saying it.
I love Harbaugh, man, but yeah, those blues, those Mason blues.
Dude, I'm right with you. I would drop back. I would throw a Hail Mary at this one right now, to be completely honest with you. I loved our last offseason, and I thought they were so smart in how they did so many things and how they turned this roster over on a limited budget with all the dead cap they had to get through. So the one thing that I could be a little, upset or picky about, if I'm being really picky, I mean, obviously you and I have talked about this time and time again. They should have drafted a center. We know that. We can table that for later. That is the obvious one that could have improved 2024. Get one of those centers. But the weirdest one to me was using a 7th round pick, which you can get rid of those. They're flyers, right? But your 7th round pick should at least make it to your practice squad. If they get taken by another team and claimed in waivers, that's not seen as a failure to me. But for the team to have drafted Cornelius Johnson and for him to get cut, not from the active roster, but cut from their practice squad as well, and picked up by another team's practice squad. What did you find out about Cornelius Johnson in that short time span that you didn't already know about him, Jim? How did you not know he wasn't going to be a fit to be on your practice squad where you can try to develop him from there?
That's a great point.
That one mystified me. And now the Junior Colson issues, it's been mostly injury related, right? But you've commented and people have been seeing it and commenting on it that he doesn't seem to be processing as quickly as we all thought he would and getting to his spots the way he should and reading. So it seems like there might be a little bit of favoritism in there. We could even take it to guys that go back even further. Personally, I would have stuck with Rocket Sanders and let Hassan Haskins go. I know he's a special teams demon for us, but I felt like we gave up a lot by letting Rocket go. You'd probably talk about this. I don't know if we have this as a take anywhere. I know you had some spicy takes on Rocket and why he was let go, which is a whole other conversation. But it just seems like a repeated issue, a theme. And at some point, they are going to need to tell Jim. It's kind of like when we're back to our fantasy football draft. I'm in a father-son league with my brother and my stepdad as 3 co-managers, and my brother won't let us draft Chargers. He's like, there's too much favoritism. You're going to draft them way too early, way too high.
It is a problem that I definitely have. I cannot tell you the amount of shares I've got of Oronde Gadsden the second. So yeah, I completely say that. The big telling one for me, the Michigan guys, is Hinton. He was the worst defensive tackle on the Chargers last season. Yet they just rotate. They would rotate guys in who played better than him, and then they'd be like, no, bye bye. We want Hinton to stay on the practice squad and then elevated for depth reasons. There is zero reason on tape why Christopher Hinton was around. It's simply because he was a good guy. And honestly, I'm surprised that Harbaugh hasn't got what's his name, Muzzy Smith yet from the Cowboys.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know if they cut him outright, but he has been terrible, and I guarantee he's going to be a Charger at some point. Okay, right. I had one.
Here, let me send you one, Ryan. I accidentally didn't transition to my take, so this is. Let me sell you on this one, and then you give me your take.
Okay.
If the interior offensive line keeps struggling against stunts, that's it. 2 starters. We kind of doubled up. We're doubling up on this, but we're including 2 starters and the offensive line coach need to be replaced in 2026. And you're probably guessing it. That would be Zion and Bradley Bozeman.
Oof. I'm going to, I can't do anything but pass this. I know we've done 3 passes to open this. We're apparently Dan Campbell on 4th down. So just
back to Brandon Staley football, baby.
Oh yeah, that was definitely by design. No, he wasn't a victim of his own circumstances. Anyway, we've said about Mike Devlin. I'm not going to go into that again. I think he hasn't earned his keep. Harbaugh brought him with a big reputation. It's not come through. And the 2 starters, to replace 2 starters in one off season is used to be seen as fraud. But I think this off season I can think of 4 teams definitely off the top of my head that did just that, 2 or 3. So the Vikings, like how are the pinnacle of that. They drafted the first round and gave market leading contracts to the other 2. Those are the 2 guys I wanted. Will Fries, Ryan Kelly. Oh, Quasi knows the path to my heart. But yeah, so I'm absolutely passing that. I don't even think there's a need for discussion on it because it's a real long-term issue. So yeah, right. I've got one for you. So again, little bit spicy. Now, bear in mind this is on paper at this time of the season. Yeah, because take last season out of your mind. Imagine we were here in this exact seat 1 year ago. The current running back room is weaker than the pairing of J.K. Dobbins and Gus Edwards and the backups that we had.
So when you emphasize not knowing how the season went, I would have to pass on that. I would have, if you were to ask me how the season played out, even with J.K. breaking out the way he did, that's a tough one. But Gus being terrible, that's tough. But at the time, I felt better about the running back room than I do right now. I do think Hampton is the future. I think he's going to crush it. I just don't like what we have behind him. I think there's the depth is so minuscule right now. Like, sure, Miller Hines might come up and be that change of pace guy that we need. I just didn't like what I saw from Haskins last year. And outside of him being a solid, core 4 special teamer, he was core 4, right?
Yeah.
He was great at special teams, but out of the backfield, they try to use him as a power runner, and I just didn't see the vision there. It was brutal. And so I have a hard time with him being our 3rd. I really wish we had tried to keep and coach up Rocket Sanders. But I would say the ceiling is higher. But the room as a whole, I have right now as a downgrade compared to last year. I really thought Gus was going to be more impactful at this time last year.
Yeah. I took shares of him in fantasy drafts at that point because he was going for nothing. And I thought, JK's not got a good health record. He's consistent. And then we saw what happened. It's clear to me the message that Greg Roman and his run game coordinators, I can't remember who is exactly involved in that. I think Andy Bishkoff is one of them. They want consistency. They want to understand what you're gonna do, and they want the metronome effect of winning games in the 4th quarter by running, even when it's not going well. You run. And the Chargers could not hold leads in games because they did late in the season because the running game just completely fell apart. So it's clear that's what Najee is for me. So I would have absolutely punted this take into the sky because Najee, even if obviously we're looking at one-eye Najee, we're looking at a player who hasn't featured in a Chargers uniform yet, apart from the yellow jersey at practice the other day, which I think he looked good in. But anyway, go back and watch the Steelers game versus us last season. He did nothing for 3 quarters. And in the 4th quarter, he brutalized what was left of the Chargers defensive front, who had played like 80 snaps by that point. They were gassed, and Najee, his peak fitness, his consistency. I'm gonna hit the hole, I'm gonna hit the hole, and I'm gonna get 4 yards, whether you like it or not. It's what Roman wants, especially when you pair that with Hampton. And that I don't think the running back room after those two matters, except for if there were injuries. I don't think Haskins is touching the ball involuntarily.
I definitely should preface that, Ryan. I just don't see if Najee didn't get injured, I absolutely would be all in on this running back room being better than the last one. I just don't see how he takes the field for a couple weeks. That part of it's blowing my mind. But now seeing him at practice, I'm accepting that it might happen. I just my actual mentality hasn't caught up yet. My belief in that hasn't caught up yet. So if he does roll out week 1 and he's okay and he's ready to go, or if we get a press conference where he, takes off the glasses and we see eyeballs. Immediately that turns on its head for me, and I like this running back room more than last year. But I just want to see that he's healthy, and there's a reason why we haven't stashed him on the IR. But those are great takes, man. So let's flip it to you. I got one. This one's not as spicy, but I really believe in this one. The single biggest upgrade this offseason across the different position rooms was tight end, and having more dynamic pieces at tight end, more receiving options, a more complete room is worth probably an extra win or two at the end, over what our projections would have been if we rolled with the same tight end room as we had last year.
Oof. So this one comes comes down to two positions very right next to each other. Is that I think wide receiver got a slightly better upgrade than tight end. Now, I will preface this with the fact that of what I have seen so far this preseason, Conklin didn't feature, or featured very, very, very quickly, but I don't think he got a target even. He got a target from Heineke, didn't he? Yeah. But if not from Herbert and not from Lance. And OG2 has looked, for me, I don't know if anyone else thinks this, he's looked to me like he's running at 85%. And I think there's some shell game going on here with Roman, that tight ends are a huge part of his game, but he didn't feature them in the preseason, barely anything. You watch them, they were attacking the seams and they were going out. They did not cross the middle of the field. And as much as Roman is a vertical pass concept builder, I felt like that was a little bit hidden compared to what they want. So right now, I'm going to punt that because I feel like wide receiver was a bigger upgrade. Think about points of last season, who the hell Herbert was throwing the ball to after Ladd. He had Ladd, QJ, and then who was the third leading receiver behind that? I can't even think off the top of my head. Genuinely help me. So
was it? It wasn't Disley, was it?
No. I mean wide receiver. Disley was absolutely
specifically wide receiver.
Yeah, I meant wide receiver. Probably Darius Davis. Josh Palmer probably, but he wasn't that healthy. But anyway, the point is, I feel like wide receiver right now has been upgraded, but I understand where you're coming from with this take, because I see that adding Conklin and OG2 adds a whole new dynamism to the tight end room that we didn't have before. People will laugh at the Conklin's little like shaky route video, but that stuff works. If you've got a big guy who's got heavy steps and he commits down, you're going to go in with him. Like, you're going to go sit your knees. You can't afford for him to throw you out as a DB, so you got to go. So yeah, it works. And OG2, I was effusive in my praise for him in the draft process, and I hope that I am right and he's not actually as slow as he showed in the preseason. Great catch for his touchdown, but apart from that, I really felt like he took a gear off. Right, I think I'm back to me for the last one.
Yep.
Again, I feel like mine are way spicier than yours. Even if he gets a lot of pressure, if Herbert fails in the playoff game again, even if he's got a lot of interior pressure, it's on him. It's not on the pressure. You need to play around that.
Dude, I gotta give you a hard time, man, because guys, Ryan said that he can't lie on these, and because he's just an honest guy. I'm seeing it as he's reading these. We have this script, so I know what Ryan's about to say as he's saying it, and I can see how much it hurts him getting these words out. Your soul is coming through on the camera, man.
Oh, especially if it was Herbert, man. If it was someone else, it was someone a bit more rough around the edges. But not my dear boy.
I have to pass on that one. I'm going to rifle that in. I think we need to see Herbert. I mean, yeah, we can always, something contextually might come up. Maybe everybody gets hurt again. Or Herbert's playing through something again. But I really, really want to see a little bit of Phillip Rivers and Justin Herbert. I think a lot of fans have said it. I don't know if Phillip needs to come out and do some consulting for the Chargers, or just let kind of just shadow and mentor the guy. Just be there right behind him, talking into his ear. I thought Harbaugh was going to bring this to him, but just a little bit more mentality of just grabbing the offense and saying, this is mine now. A little bit more Tom Brady style, just something where, yeah, if the interior pressure is becoming a problem, Justin, at some point we want to see you get pissed, and we want to see you talk to Jim or Joe. You are the franchise. And if you say we're not getting protection up front, then instead of Bradley Bozeman getting a captain's patch, I want you to put pressure on Joe Hortiz to find a replacement. Like that's where we're at now. This franchise is yours. You have the keys. So if that's not what's going to happen, we need a little bit more Phillip Rivers calling some audibles, changing, sliding the blocking if he has to. But something needs to happen where Herbert has a little bit more authority within this offense and takes a little bit more control over it, in my mind.
Sorry.
Yep.
I'm absolutely astounded. The Cowboys just traded Micah Parsons to the Packers. I didn't think he was actually doing it.
That's what our cap space was for, Ryan.
Oh,
That's what our cap space was for.
Oh, my expectations were low, but holy fuck.
That could have been us, man. Did they give him the $45 million?
I haven't said.
Welcome to my office, everybody. It's also a kid's playroom now. If you want to learn about colors, here they are.
There's no more information. It's just that. Oh my God.
All right. Well, That's my take. I'm passing on it. Let's go to the fantasy draft.
Oh yeah, let's just go there. Woof. That's going to make a good.
Okay, I'm going to, just for you and I, Ryan, I'm going to bold the ones that I pick. I'm going to italicize the ones that you pick, and then we'll go back to them later. I'm going to give you first overall, buddy. So fantasy draft, we're going to go four deep, okay? You get 4 takes. It's going to go 1-1. We're just going to go back and forth. So you go ahead and lead the way, buddy.
Packers for the Super Bowl is a good take. The Chargers don't have an OL personnel problem; they have a coaching problem. That's my.
Oh, take one right off the board.
Take one. Yeah, Mike Devlin, bro. Yeah. If you somehow listen to this podcast, sort it out. Seriously. Right, bro.
Sorry,
back
man.
to
Sorry.
you. Where are you gonna go? Have you sandbagged me all along?
I'm going to go with the Chargers cap spaces and its strategy. It's failed execution. Hortiz missed the market. The reason I'm going to go with that one, Ryan, is if he intended on being more frugal, he would have left with compensatory picks. I think it's the biggest sin, the way he plays the game, for him to have spread out spending and just taken away 2/5 and a 1/6. for players that they might raise the floor a little bit. Najee could be great if he doesn't have that eye injury thing going on. But the fact that we wiped out all of our comp picks and didn't bring in a big signing other than maybe Becton, all of those cancellations, Ryan, were we brought in guys that were worth 7th round picks or a 6th round pick, and we canceled out 5th and a 6th. So It's a huge bummer. So that was failed execution to me. That's my first pick off the board. Right back to you, buddy.
Okay. Shamari Caldwell will be the best team DC the team has since Jamal Williams.
Such a jackass.
I told you.
He sandbags it, and snags it. I love it.
Oh, double bluff works. I am ecstatic about how his tape has actually grown from his college tape to even the Senior Bowl tape to now. And I can't wait to see him week 1. I know he's not going to start, but I feel like he'll be on that second line that does get snaps, and I think he can really help, especially if Jesse Minter's going to start sending some of these far zone brushes. So yeah, I'm taking that. Yeah,
I like it.
What about you?
I think I'm going to jump in and snag Becton over Pipkins at guard is a bigger upgrade than Slater to Pipkins at tackle is a downgrade.
Okay, yeah. The floor raiser. I was pretty convinced about that take. So yeah, I see where you're at with it. Yeah.
Right, what do you got, buddy?
I'm gonna go RJ Mickens. I've talked about him. So that was our one when we said he's earned his spot outright. He will get over 200 snaps because he has earned it through his play. Like I said, I thought his tape was up and down. He was inconsistent. He was able to do a lot, but Clemson's top-down system is pretty limiting on safeties. And RJ Mickens stepped into the box in the preseason games in Minter's scheme, and he was fearless. And I love how he pursued backside. I think he made 2 or 3 TFLs from just penetrating the backside by firing off at the same speed the linebackers do. So in case people may not be that familiar with how different positions in the defense read, if you're a DB, you read pass first. So you'll take a read step backwards, and then you will assess whether it's run or pass based off of your keys. Then you'll go and react to the run if it is a run. So you're doing 2 things before you get into before you even start to get downhill. When you are in the box, you are technically a linebacker. Even if you're a safety, you're a linebacker. So you then have to read forwards. So it's a really difficult transition. You have to completely step the wrong way, read the wrong way around. And he's mastered it straight away. So he's absolutely earned that spot in my eyes.
I love it. I'm going to go ahead and take, if the interior offensive line keeps struggling against stunts, 2 starters and the O-line coach need to be replaced in 2026.
Yeah, I mean,
slate.
Yeah, I mean, don't think we need to delve into that. It's a pretty solid take. So yeah,
Bozeman's still probably going to be there as a backup. I mean, we'd have to talk about that. Whether or not with him being a captain, they would just want to cut him, or how they would play that in that situation.
Yeah, I mean, I looked at his cap hit for the second year when he came out. I think it's only 1.5. You know, we're projected to have the most cap space of any team in 2026. So it's something we can eat if we really need to. You know, for the good of him.
Well, what's interesting about that one, Ryan, it's actually higher but you're right, his base is low, but he has a bunch of incentives for starting games. And because he started all 17 games last season, they're currently logged as likely to be earned. So they're reflected in his cap hit. And I think his cap hit is like 3 or 4 million or something. But if he were to play and not start, then we would get that money back essentially. Like that wouldn't count against the cap after all. So it's kind of weird. Over the cap's kind of inflating that number because of it. But anyway, that's my pick. Who you got? 1 pick remaining. Rounding it out. Don't make it a Joe Hortiz 7th rounder. Let's make this one a strong 4th rounder, buddy. What do you got?
5th round is his name. Is his
This is it. Money. We're skipping the 4th and going right to the 5th.
I'm going to go with Trey Harris will outsnap Lambert Smith, but Lambert Smith will outproduce him in yards.
Woo!
So far, what the Chargers have shown is that Lambert Smith is going to be their deep ball sideline guy. So I feel like he will have, 20 yards per catch. That's the kind of numbers you're looking at. He's going to be that sideline. I love how he extends the sideline. We haven't had a player do that since like young Keenan, who would see the paint as the extra yards to get because they can get those toes in. Whereas and Trey Harris can't do that. He's shown he can do that. But I feel like basically what Roman has said about him and how they've used other players in the preseason. I talked about in my article on StormCloud. I said how QJ in the quick screen, that was interesting because that reminded me of what Trey Harris did so well at Ole Miss. He'll extend the running game by having quick game passing. He can catch that ball on a bubble, fall forward for 5 yards. That's a really useful trait, and so I feel like he will have that within him, Trey. But I don't think he's going to have more yards than Lambert Smith because his use will be more as a Z rather than the X we originally projected him to be. Yeah. And
I like it. So for my last pick, I am going to snag the single biggest upgrade this season was at tight end, and it should eke them out an extra couple wins. I'm right there with you with the wide receiver position, Ryan. I think there's a strong argument that more talent was injected into that position and that it's going to free up the offense a lot. But I don't think I think it became a more well-rounded room, but I think Ladd is still the most talented receiver.
Definitely.
Whereas with tight end, I think we brought in not one, but two guys that might bring more receiving chops and free up Greg Roman to run some of those concepts you've talked about liking. And then Disley gets to go back to being what he's always been. And that's a great run blocker and a guy that can release out for a pass, but we don't have to force him the ball anymore. I mean, Disley absolutely outproduced what we all expected him to do when Hayden Hurst became useless last year. So the fact that Disley can now be a very nondescript run blocking tight end again and only has upside from there. And we have a Conklin that we know can start. We have OG2 that we know has a lot, like you said, a lot of meat left on the bone of what he can produce and show, but his athleticism just provides so much. I think even though Slater and losing him is huge, hopefully with all these weapons, both in the wide receiving room and the tight end room, hopefully Herbert's not having to hang on to the ball so long and is able to, get the ball out to guys quickly because we have so much talent now in both rooms. But I think tight end just has a little bit of an edge.
It's a great point, and something I held back on earlier because I thought you would end up taking this one, is that when Greg Roman goes into his 12 and 13 personnel packages, beforehand we had Tucker Fisk running routes, we had Scott Matlock trying to catch a flare route, and also it meant that on third down, especially when you're in hurry up offense, you can't have big bodies on the field. And now we've got more options of both wide receiver and tight end, and it means that you can play with more traditional tight end sets. Your inline twin tight ends, that's going to be where you're going to add that extra dimension by the guys you said. So it just unlocks more of the offense. So I see exactly what you mean. Yeah.
I love it. Well, okay, to wrap things up today, guys, Ryan and I are going to really quick give our season projection, just what you think the record is, Ryan, how far, if they get there, they'll make it through the playoffs. And then give me what game you're looking at that you believe could set the tone for the season, either in the right or the wrong direction.
Okay. So I went through all the games and been going, analyzing, what the context of the season will be at that point to understand it. And there are some, the middle was pretty soft of this, once we get through the divisional games, there is a little bit of a soft section. So I think we'll go on a run, and it's what ends that run that's going to be the crux point for the season. So overall, I feel like we're going to go, I've got 10-6-1, and there is one specific game that I've got in there, which is a hinge point, which is the tie. So I feel like the Steelers game. I feel like those are two teams who would take a tie. I think Harbaugh and Tomlin would just keep paddling water, you keep both playing chicken right until the end of that game, and we'll see a tie. But that will be the point where we'll miss out on a division win because of that. Because I think the Chiefs are taking a step back. I'm not a believer in the Broncos offense. And so I feel like we'll be in contention, but that tie will take us out of contention. We'll slip to a wild card spot. I still haven't made my mind up if we're going to win a wild card game. I kind of want to do I predict the whole of the AFC and the NFC. So I'm going to do that. Although, my God, the NFC just changed today. So yeah, I feel you know what? Right now, I'm just going to say I feel like we lose the wild card game. I feel like it's a slight step backwards, but one that's kind of built into the long-term plan. What about yourself?
Gotcha. I think I'm going with a harder schedule makes an 11-6 finish feel more significant than last year. I think the only position group that we feel like has actually taken a step back is the offensive line. And as we discussed, one of my takes right now is that I'm going to hang on to is that the floor of the offensive line is actually, and even the ceiling as well. In fact, the ceiling even more so, because if Trey Pipkins gets back to run blocking like he has when he's been at his peak, it's still not going to be dominant, but it's going to be serviceable, especially next to Becton. And all of a sudden, this offensive line looks a lot better than it did last year, where this fish out of water was at right guard flopping around. So I would put 11-6 with, again, that offense being more dynamic, having more weapons, carrying us through. Ironically, man, you and I have the same game written down. I absolutely circle the Steelers game as the make or break for the mentality of this team, because we go back to last year and we punched the Raiders in the mouth, right? In that first game, the players had a little brawl at the end of the game, and as Charger fans, we were like, "Oh my gosh, this is our mentality now. We're the bullies. We're going to bully people. Different. This is going to be sick." And then I forget if we went to their house, if we went to the bully's house, or if the bully came to our house.
I think they
we
came
went and
to
played
us.
some bullies. Yeah, and we have no lunch money. We have no toys. The bullies came to our place and just ransacked us. The Steelers showed us what a real bully team looks like.
Exactly.
So in our second year, in week 10, can we show that we're now the bullies, that we can keep up with that style of play? Because we could beat up against teams that were soft. Now, can we stand up to teams that are going to be smash mouth, punch us in the mouth, and come back fighting? Because even though it was a 2010 loss, there was never any hope in that game. They brutalized us. So that's what I'm going to be looking for this season is at week 10. Can we make that statement? And does that carry us through the rest of the year, even into the playoffs? And I do think we pick up a wild card win. I don't know if we go beyond that.
I think everyone's on the same page. I've listened to a lot of previews this week. Anything that says AFC West, I'm listening to. And basically all of them say the same. Our floor and our ceiling are like 2 wins apart, which is hilarious.
Well, right on, guys. That was a fun show. Ryan and I have been working on these a couple times now, and we've had a bunch of failure to launch moments, but we're finally, hopefully, going to get this one out.
Please.
Hopefully it's recorded properly. But this was the end of our first episode, recapping everything. We're going to be doing these weekly with a hopefully 20, 30-minute format where we're going to preview the upcoming game. We'll review the previous one and then talk about any roster decisions. But please make sure you guys come check us out at stormcloud.blog. Take a look at our written material as well. And Ryan, is there anything you want to say before we sign off, buddy?
I mean, the StormCloud is also a community, so there's an opportunity for anyone as a platform to post whatever you want within reason, no slander. But yeah, other than that, obviously just, make sure you subscribe, drop us a review, and also with our fantasy draft, let us know who you thought had the better one. It's me.
Yes. All right. Well, Thanks again, Ryan, for hopping on with me. And you guys take it easy. We'll see you next week.
Bow up.